Oh, we're having issues. Uh-oh. What's up, everybody? It is Adam Paul Stone back at it again with another Let's Settle This episode. Today's show is going to be great. We're discussing who is the worst MCU villain, who has the best Joker performance, and a few other topics that are going to be real fun to run down. Today, I got two really great fighters on the show, and we'll get to them right in a second. But let's first jump over to my brother, Josh, who's the fact checker. Say what's up, Josh.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's up? So, at the beginning of the show, we're running on Facebook Live and on YouTube simultaneously. So I couldn't figure it out, like what was going on. Something crazy happened. But let's say what's up to our first fighter. His name is Ty. He's a relative of mine. Say what's up, Ty.
I've never been on live television before. Happy to be here. What's up?
And a good friend of mine, Zach. I've shot a lot of music videos for this guy. We've become good friends, and he's super knowledgeable when it comes to movie stuff. So say what's up, Zach.
Hey, what's up? I'm Zach.
Awesome, guys. So we're going to start this show off with a couple of the rules that are a part of the show. And the rules are, it's about the arguments. And I want these guys to be creative with their arguments as well. And if they add a little humor, sprinkle that throughout, that's going to be a lot of points and extra flavor on top. So if you guys are ready, we're going to run down and get to know our fighters.
Let's settle this.
Round one. Fight!
All right, round one is what is the best Marvel film? And round one is going to start with Ty. So start with your first opening statement, Ty. What's your film? What's your pick?
Hello, everyone. My pick for the best MCU movie has got to go to Spider-Man Homecoming. So in order to break this down, I feel like we need to start by defining what a superhero is. To me, a superhero is someone who puts themselves in harm's way to protect others. I feel like, especially in the MCU, we get used to the idea of superheroes being the guy that kills the bad guy in the end. And that's more of a mercenary view on superheroism than actually protecting everyone. To me, a superhero is somebody who will even save the people who are being violent, who are the attacker in the end. So of course that's why I have to go with Spider-Man. Spider-Man always pulls his punches. If you watch Spider-Man Homecoming all the way through and you really pay attention to the way he fights the villains, he never punches a single person. He'll push people with his legs, and you could call that kicking, but mainly he uses the web shooters. He does not try to hurt a soul, no matter how irredeemable they may seem to the audience. So this is why I kind of pigeonholed into Spider-Man through the MCU. Or best movie is because to me, he embodied the best superhero. So now let's talk about the requirements for the best superhero movie. The best superhero movie, or a good superhero movie, I should say, it needs a relatable villain. It needs a fully encapsulated story. This was important to me because I felt like the big blockbusters like Endgame or Infinity War, even the new Spider-Man No Way Home, they predicated that you had to watch some movies before seeing it. Now, while Spider-Man Homecoming does make the assumption that you've seen Civil War, it isn't necessary. You can watch this movie without having seen Civil War, having seen any of the other MCU movies, and still walk away enjoying it, enjoying your time, understanding everything that happened. Next is real stakes. It has to have stakes that are somewhat believable. We all suspend our belief for these shows. I mean, they're superheroes with superpowers, but I still like there to be a layer of plausibility, if you will. And finally, it can't have a love story. Love stories are the worst thing to happen to, yes, to a superhero movie. It just throws it all off, in my opinion. So this is my criteria for a best superhero movie, and I feel like Spider-Man: Homecoming really fits the bill here.
Awesome.
So,
sorry.
Oh, you're good. I'm not sure if I have a time limit or anything.
You don't, but if you want to save some of those things, I'm going to get Zach's pick, so then you can continue that as well. Zach, what was your pick from round one?
So my pick was Iron Man, the first Iron Man, and the reason is because it starts it all. Like we don't have an MCU if it wasn't for that movie. The line at the end of that movie is "I am Iron Man," right? And that just not only does it start it, it ends. It comes full circle and it ends it. And to me, the whole idea of, as he was saying about a superhero movie, it's about redemption, right? For him, it's about redeeming what his legacy, his father's legacy, by trying to make the world a better place, a safer place, and coming from somebody at the beginning of the story was more about the money and how can I, of course it's about protecting the world, but whenever he gets kidnapped, he has to realize that it's bigger than I am, right? It's bigger, and so to me, that redemption arc that he has in that movie makes it the best MCU movie because it starts it again.
Awesome, guys. All right, Ty, did you want to finish what you were saying? Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to argue. I have a whole list of bullet points as to why I really like Homecoming, but it's really coming off a lot as personal preference here.
Hey, that's all this show is.
I could talk all day about Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Hey, I was gonna choose Spider-Man. I'm not gonna lie. Spider-Man he's one of my favorite characters. But Iron Man, seeing that movie again, it sparked my interest because I've always kind of dabbled in comic books and stuff like that. But when I first saw the first Iron Man, I was like, wow, it blew me away in a way that no other movie has that I've been able to connect with, and so that's why I picked.
So Ty, just tell us why you believe that Homecoming is a better Marvel movie than Iron Man. Why was that your pick?
Love Iron Man to death. Great movie. At the end of the day, it's all about the hero's relationship to the story and also the villain's relationship. Now, in Iron Man, Jeff Bridges plays an amazing Ironmonger. I love his character. Sprinkling in things about the Ten Rings, being a extremist group that kidnaps him, giving kind of the Easter eggs of Mandarin later on. Beautiful. It's beautiful. But with Homecoming, it's more than just a hero's origin story. It's a villain's origin story. The movie begins with Michael Keaton discussing the events of the first Avengers and having all of this work that he had risked his livelihood for being taken away by Stark. And you see exactly the point of how he turns from just a regular blue-collar worker who wants to do everything right to a Robin Hood type, right, to a person who's going to now steal from the rich. He's going to take this technology and use it for his own gain, his own profit. And we've all kind of been abused by the system. And so I think a lot of us do relate to that Michael Keaton type, to that Vulture, type of thinking. Everything that I worked hard for was taken away by somebody because they had more influence in this realm than I did. But I mean, you can't go wrong with Michael Keaton's Vulture. Nobody cared about the Vulture in the comic books, in the shows, nothing. That guy was a throwaway character. But then you give it to a monumental actor like Michael Keaton, and he runs with it. And so it starts off being a villain origin as well as being a hero origin. And then at the very end, the thing that sets Spider-Man Homecoming above all the others to me is that he does not defeat the villain. At the end, he is defeated by the villain. And then Vulture grabs the arc reactors to fly away, and he sees that he's going to explode. He could just let the guy explode. Problem solved. But he doesn't. He saves Vulture's life in the end. And so it wasn't a movie where the hero defeats the villain. The villain defeated the hero. It was where the hero saved the villain. And that shows especially at that end credit scene, the middle stinger, where Scorpion meets the Vulture in prison and says, "I hear a rumor you know who Spider-Man is." And Vulture goes, "I don't. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go see my family." You can see his redemption. Not only the main heroes, but the villains as well.
Awesome. Zach?
Very good point. That's gonna be hard to argue with. So you're right, but at the same time, there would be no Vulture without Tony Stark, right? Without the start of that MCU with that I am Iron Man, the whole Tony Stark redemption, going through all of the trauma that he went through. You know, there would be no Vulture because Tony Stark is the reason why the Vulture was created. You know, at the end of the day, it was his company that came in and took the, you know, and I love Spider-Man Homecoming. That was, they did an amazing job picking Michael Keaton. Amazing job. But it's still, because when you again, it is an origin story, but he's still set up as a villain. And whenever because Tony Stark could have well have been a villain at the start of that movie, right? But because he had to go through that, he turns it around, and now he's creating things to save the world. And to me, that's why it is the best, because a hero is not about not making mistakes. It's about saying, okay, I made these mistakes and owning up and taking responsibility for them.
I love that input, and if I can interject,
can.
I completely agree with that. Tony Stark's line in Spider-Man Homecoming reflects that a lot. Where after the ferry scene, whenever we get that great Tobey Maguire busts homage where he's holding the two sides of the ferry together. Well, afterwards, after Iron Man saves him, he's talking with him, and he says, "You don't deserve the suit. I'm taking it away." And Spider-Man says, "No, but I'm nothing without this suit." And Tony has that line in that movie that's so good. It's if you are nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve it.
Yeah.
And so I get that. I get that a lot. What you're saying, I do love Iron Man. It's so good, and it does set the stage. But at the end of the day, Spider-Man is what I think audiences identify with. The demographic of these Marvel movies mainly start out, I mean, I know that I did in like middle school, high school age, kid getting into these comics. And Spider-Man for me, I saw a reflection of myself, somebody my age who was out doing these things, but even better than the others. He wasn't resorting to violence. He wasn't hurting people. He was doing it the way that it was supposed to be done.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Now, if we're talking about all time, right, you're right. Spider-Man was the first, comic book hero that I ever really got into. But when we're talking specifically to the MCU, right, if you have something as iconic, because there's a lot of people that were like me that kind of, dabbled in comic books and, they knew about these characters. Iron Man wasn't one of those characters that a lot of people cared about until it came to the MCU, until they got it on that big screen and picked, Robert Downey Jr. It's an iconic, just that movie alone. That's, because, and they ended it. I mean, they ended the whole thing at Endgame saying, "I am Iron Man." right? They picked him for a reason because he was the start of that whole franchise. And to me, you can't replace that, right? You can't replace that I am Iron Man moment, right? On either side. And so that's why to me, because they brought it full circle and ended it that way, they did that for a reason, right? Because people connected to that movie, at a level that not again, I'm a very big Spider-Man fan. Spider-Man, one of my favorite characters, and so it's just it's
a tough fight for you.
yeah, it is. It's a tough one, but again, when we're talking about MCU movies, Iron Man gets it all the way.
Awesome. Let's do a little wrap up. I know you guys said a lot. I have a lot of notes here from what you guys have said, but let's just do a quick little 30 seconds to a minute little wrap up. And let's start with you, Ty. Just wrap up your argument of why Spider-Man Homecoming is the definitive for you and convincing me of why Homecoming is the best Marvel movie.
Spider-Man is the best Marvel movie because not only is it a great hero origin film, it's a great villain origin film. A good superhero movie needs a relatable villain that we can all get behind. Michael Keaton knocked it out of the park. It had real stakes. The hero didn't win at the end, but he saved them. It was more of a true hero story than any of the other Marvel movies have been so far. And then it played on the demographic. A lot of people that age wanted to see themselves represented. It was a real love letter to the fans as well as to Spider-Man itself.
Awesome.
And then Donald Glover playing Aaron Davis, the Prowler.
Right.
And saying, I got a nephew that lives around here. There's a Miles Morales Easter egg just dropped in there. It was just so well done, so well executed, and the story was very genuine to me. And it hit a lot of people. They could all relate to it.
Awesome. Zach, little wrap up.
So, I keep repeating it, but again, it's the start of the MCU. It is the very start of the MCU. It comes full circle. And my point is, again, you started the franchise with the I Am Iron Man, you end the franchise with the I Am Iron Man. It's just it's an iconic line that I know I cried when Iron Man did the snap. I was like, no, I knew it was gonna happen, but I was like, no, this can't be happening. And so, I've had conversations with a lot of people that felt that same way. And when you have a character that does that, it makes you feel that emotion, right? You can't replace it.
Awesome, guys. Great job. Great fighting. Josh, we're going to jump over to you just for a quick, maybe you got a factoid for us, a fact check for us, or maybe you got some comments to read. Josh.
Yeah. First of all, we got some family in the comments. What's up, guys? We got everybody. Jake's in here, Buck's in here, Carrey, Marcus.
What's up, everybody?
We got a nice... Well, first Buck says, Ty, you blurry as a mug. That's hilarious. Carrey says, fact check this. Which movie grossed more? $880 million goes to Spider-Man Homecoming, which means the public agrees.
I was just going to say this to Carrey when I saw this comment come in. It's hard to compare something with Iron Man versus Spider-Man. Number one, Spider-Man being such a popular character, having already 3 films before it, actually 5 films before it with this amazing Spider-Man, and that Iron Man was the first. No one believed in Iron Man when it first came out. It made a ton of money. It wasn't $880 million, but, and I'm just over here on Josh's shot, but Carrey, to say, it's hard to compare these two because one was years later as the MCU had already taken off. So Carrey, I love you, but this point is not valid. Love you so much.
I will say this, Spider-Man, whether you like Rotten Tomatoes or not, whatever. Right. Spider-Man on Rotten Tomatoes got 92 from the critics and 87 from the audience, which I thought was crazy. I figured the audience would be way on board.
What were those again?
What was that? 92 from critics and 87 from the audience. And that was for Iron Man got 94. Okay. That was Spider-Man.
Okay. 94 from critic?
And Iron Man got 94 critic and 91 audience. which I guess it maybe was more of a fan thing. But what's crazy is as I was looking into them, something that I was going to say that I never knew was something that Ty said, which was if you watch through the movie, he never punches anyone the whole movie.
Right.
I had no idea. And also something else that I found out that Zach brought up as well, but he was talking about the end, when he goes, "I'm Iron Man" at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Apparently, Robert Downey Jr. ad-libbed that line. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And
they actually
to avoid do
sorry.
what?
I said they actually brought him back to film that for Endgame because he didn't actually say that at the end. He said something else, and they brought him back months and months later to film.
No, I'm not talking about Endgame.
No, I know,
movie.
but I was just putting another factor in there.
Okay.
That first at the press conference, yeah, he totally just threw that in, and that was just that touch.
Good improv.
And they said that they to avoid spoilers, that they told all the extras that it was like a dream sequence. So they're like, "Oh, he's just dreaming," so that the extras wouldn't go home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Josh, based on those arguments, whose side are you going here? Are you going Zach? Or are you going Ty?
Based on those arguments, you have a tough job ahead of you, bud. They were both really good.
Let me run down my thoughts.
I think.
Oh, sorry.
Hold on, real quick. I think they were both so good, and then Ty said one thing about the Vulture being super relatable, and I think that's when I was like, okay, I may lean more that way, just argument wise, because I love both those movies so much.
I see how it is. Family.
I think
so. No,
I think Zach really brought this emphasis on being the start of the MCU, which I agree with, and I think Homecoming doesn't exist without the success of Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, and so all those points I agree with completely, and I was on your side with that. There's no MCU without it. I wrote down. You talked about the hero, like he had a choice he could have went to the villain side. He could have, in whatever, like all these great points you were making. But, and if I was to be personal here, I love Iron Man. I love both these movies. I think we all do. It's hard to argue things that are the best things. It's like, yeah, it's all preference at that point. And that's what we are arguing is preference. And what we're also arguing is who had the best argument here. And for me, I think, Ty, you really brought a lot of strength here, so I think you're going to take the first point, Ty, for Homecoming. Boom. Ty, first point.
We got another chat here. Erin brought something that I never even thought of before. She said the I am Iron Man is a jab at Batman. Those are kind of similar, I guess, for never revealing his identity.
Oh, wow. That's really, I
never thought of that.
That's interesting. That's awesome.
I never thought about that either.
Great job, though, Zach. That was very hard to.
That was a great fight.
Yeah, both of you.
That's such a good pick. Such a good pick.
Thank you. Well, no, I agree. Spider-Man is a very iconic character.
It's
right because again, he's the very first character that I really love. Because you're right. As a kid, you're like, that could be me, right? And so I understand.
It's a tough fight, but I think where the because Iron Man did start it all, I think where it gets tough is that Homecoming comes years after, so they're the way that they've developed movies has just become so refined over the time that all those little pitfalls in Iron Man, if you watch it, it's like, oh, it's just two Iron Man suits fighting each other. It's kind of a boring villain. Like, oh, we love Jeff Bridges, but he's a sort of so having the Vulture is just such a good villain. Like they figured out and how to intertwine it with the Avengers 1, like that the Vulture could be involved with this alien technology. It's just so smart. I love Iron Man. Everyone loves Iron Man, but I think just Kevin Feige
the way the story.
Yeah, he's just become a great storyteller and a great producer. So I mean, it's just hard to argue those two movies in general. But let's move on to round two, and we're starting with Zach, but we're gonna have the round two come up for the audience here.
Round two.
Who is the best comedy duo? And we're starting with you, Zach. Who's your pick for the best comedy duo?
Man, this was a tough one for me, because I didn't know if I wanted to go back, but I'm going to have to say Will Ferrell and why can't I remember his name?
John C. Reilly.
There you go, John C. Reilly. Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Because, I mean, I think of the two movies, Talladega Nights and Step Brothers.
Right.
I mean, I can't remember going throughout high school and not quoting those movies, and so we would always joke around, and I'm going fast. If you're not first, you're last. And so those two, they just have a chemistry together
Right.
that I haven't seen in a very long time.
Awesome. Opening argument for you, Ty. Who was your pick?
My pick was Key and Peele. I also had that same internal argument of, should I go to the classics? Should I go to Laurel and Hardy? Should I do Abbott and Costello or Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis, who paved the way?
Right.
But then I ultimately decided on doing someone that I think was more relatable to audiences today, and Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly was my second pick. Key and Peele just barely ticked over for me on that. So that's a great choice.
Awesome. So, starting with you, Zach, let's get the argument going. Why is Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly a better comedy duo than Key and Peele?
Man, I didn't even think about them. I'm not gonna lie. That's gonna be tough to beat there. So
don't show your hand. Play confident.
So whenever you watch those two together, interact together, I mean, it's just they have something that again you haven't seen since Tommy Boy, right? And so just it seems so effortless. When it came to those movies, and when it comes to comedy, I'm not really into the crude humor, really, but those movies I laughed. Like when in Step Brothers, whenever they were getting beat up by those kids, hilarious. Or he was burying John C. Reilly. I'm still alive. It was hilarious, and just watching those movies. But Key and Peele, man, you got me on that one. Those guys are funny.
Don't show your hand. Don't. All right, Ty.
So I can't disagree with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. Just like you said, that scene where he's burying him alone it had me rolling. But the reason that I did ultimately go with Key and Peele over Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly was a few reasons, mainly their longevity. This is a duo who have been making comedy for years. I know they had their show, Key and Peele, which is an amazing show, great show, but they started on Mad TV together back in 2004. And so they did a 5-year stint in Mad TV doing sketch comedy before they even went out to do their own show on Comedy Central in 2012, which, was a 5-season long, 53-episode series that was just absolutely consistently hilarious. These guys are megastars in their own right. Jordan Peele's become an amazing director. I'm looking forward to his new movie, the Alien movie coming out. And Keegan-Michael Key has been in a ton of really good movies and shows since then. However, they have extreme. I know that you said this about Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. They had so many quotable moments. Key and Peele have so many quotable sketches. The I Said Bitch episode, that first pilot episode, was so funny. I could not stop laughing. When he's floating off into space, I said bitch. That had me rolling. They're masters of so many different types of mediums. They can do impressions. They can do horror. There's a lot of scary, funny skits on there. They do sketch comedy. They do stand-up. They do slapstick. They can do sound effects. But they also can do gender bending. Jordan Peele's Megan character is believably a woman, and they can do race bending pretty well. His performance as the Indian doctor during the Your Mom joke sketch was so just engrossing, and you'd think you'd see somebody doing another race and you'd be a little off put by it, but they really nail it on the head each time.
Jeez.
Any argument against that, Zach? Of why?
Man.
Yeah.
Why Will Ferrell? Again, it's just. Honestly, I was not prepared for this one. I did not expect Key and Peele because I didn't even think about them. Oh man. You're right. They have quotable moments. But Will Ferrell, and when you take a movie like Will Ferrell, they may have shorts together, but they haven't really been in any movies together,
Other
right?
than Keanu.
Have they in
Keanu.
Oh, Keanu, that's right.
It has a kitty in it. Yeah. You would love it.
Saw that one. Is it good? I'll have to watch it.
It's okay.
But I just, again, I can't, whenever I think back to, high school and, growing up, those two movies, and then they even did Sherlock Holmes, which, it was okay. But those two movies, Talladega Nights and Step Brothers, again, the most quoted that I can remember. And, and to me, that is why I chose them. And they did 2 consecutive movies together.
All right, I feel like this is a good time to wrap up since Zach, you're almost throwing in the towel here.
A little bit.
It took you off guard.
Show my hand.
When I saw these two, it was a great matchup, I thought, because they've taken 2 different mediums. One has gone strictly towards film with John C. Reilly. Well, they did internet. Oh, maybe it's more Will Ferrell did more of the internet stuff. But then you have Key and Peele, who went on Comedy Central, and a lot of YouTube. Most of us probably watched their show on YouTube. I mean, it was the most viral thing of 2012 and 2013 or whatever. But I think they're 2 different things. But it was like when I saw what y'all's picks were, I was like, wow, this is such a great fight. But I didn't realize it's comedy is so subjective. It's hard to argue who's the best duo together. But if you were Ty, do you have any last remarks just to kind of wrap up your thoughts?
Just kill me now.
AA Ron. Is there an AA Ron in the class? Final words.
Man. The final words.
Nice. Josh, let's go to you real quick and let's get some thoughts on the round. And
yeah, we got a couple people throwing out their own favorite duos. Jay Copper commented saying Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Carrey, Wright, and Janine Hopper both said David Spade and Chris Farley, which is crazy. They're pretty good. As for this, for me, they're both really nostalgic to me because I remember watching Key and Peele back on Mad TV.
Yeah.
But there's something about, I don't know if it was high school or just right out of high school. I feel like Will Ferrell and those John C. Reilly movies just took over my life.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Step Brothers was almost completely improv, the whole movie, and then there's still quotable lines, for me, I'm going to have to give Zach the point on this one.
Awesome.
For that reason. And I looked this up. Did you know that the fake nuts in that movie cost $10,000 to make?
And Will Ferrell still has them in his office.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's just my take.
I love that movie, and that movie's grown on me over the years. I think when I first saw it, I was like, what? But I think their comedy is best in repeat. I think both of them are. I think they're best in almost re-watching them, and the humor is buried deep, So I think, I don't know, Josh. So you would say Zach, right? On this?
That's where I was going. Especially for those movies. For me, the nostalgia of them is high.
It's hard. I've spent a lot of time watching these two, but I feel like Zach in this argument. If we're talking about the argument, I feel like Zach kind of bailed on his argument.
I did. As soon as he said Key and Peele, I was like,
he was like, okay.
Hey man, I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been uphill struggling.
Yeah, you should watch Josh's episode. So, anyways, for this round, I'm also be giving the point to Ty. Congratulations.
Good job,
Marcus Wright says, "What about Adam Sandler and Rob Schneider?"
Oh gosh, Marcus. No.
Yeah.
No.
Love you, everybody. Good to see you, brother.
Oh gosh. All right, guys, let's move.
I like Adam Sandler.
I do like Adam Sandler. I just think that comedy duo. I hate Rob Schneider. Gosh,
What?
he's the worst.
It's like lamb on tuna fish.
But yeah, he's. But I don't think of them as a duo. Do you guys think of them as a duo though? Or is he just kind of in his movies?
I think it's just kind of in his movies.
Does
Like
Adam Sandler?
one-liners.
Yeah, does Adam Sandler actually have a duo? Someone like he has a ton of guys in all his movies, from Steve Buscemi or whatever, like all those guys, Nick Schwartzman. But who's his duo? Like someone he's always in movies with? Like I can't even think of anybody.
What was that Chuck and Larry movie?
Chuck and Larry, yeah. I mean James, what's his name?
Yeah.
Kevin James, yeah.
Yeah.
If you've seen Strange Bedfellows, it's hard to go back to Chuck and Larry. I mean, Strange Bedfellows.
I've never seen that.
Paul Hogan. So that's an Australian movie that Chuck and Larry is based on, and it is.
Oh, really?
Paul Hogan. Yeah, the guy who played Crocodile Dundee.
No way. Okay.
Good movie.
Well,
Nice.
cool guys. Let's move on to round 3, and that is starting with Ty. So let's let the audience see what round 3 is.
Round 3. Fight!
Who is the worst Marvel villain, MCU villain? And we're starting with you, Ty. Who did you pick?
I picked Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Or not awesome.
This is a hard one. You hate to harp on any of the movies made in the Marvel universe. They're all made with such heart and passion, and I love every single person in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 movies. I love Kurt Russell. He looks just like my stepfather. But there was just something about this movie, which I'll go into more depth on. He was just a completely unrelatable character that didn't have any clear motivations.
Awesome. Zach, who is your pick?
So my pick is Taskmaster in Black Widow. Definitely left a lot to be desired.
Nice. Can you give me like a couple of reasons why that was?
Just because the way it ended, it being what's his name's daughter at the end.
Spoiler alert, didn't see it.
Oh, spoiler! Sorry, spoiler for anybody who didn't see it. It wasn't like the comic because Taskmaster is meant to be a badass, right? He's meant to, or whoever it is under that mask, and then also the costume, the armor, it looked very boxy. I don't know. It didn't feel genuine and smooth and.
Right. Awesome. All right, Ty. Why is your pick worse than Taskmaster? Taskmaster.
So I can't help but agree with you, Zach. Taskmaster was a completely one-dimensional character, and usually whenever Marvel changes a character, they do it for the better. But in that case, I mean, that was a really one-dimensional character. And in my case, Ego, he was a pretty three-dimensional character. He was very nuanced, but that kind of detracted from him in a way. The entire manipulation scheme of Peter Quill in the movies was unnecessary. If you really thought about who he was, what his intentions were, and what his power level was, I mean, this is a villain who's more powerful than Thanos, and whose ultimate goal was to destroy more, like the whole universe, whereas Thanos only wanted to destroy half of it. But yet we had 15 movies devoted to the buildup of Thanos and what he was doing, and we had a whole collection of an army of superheroes coming to stop Thanos, and here was just a ragtag group that defeated Celestial, more powerful than Thanos in just one movie. It was too much packed into one single movie. I think the real issue with Ego was the overhyped setting around it. I mean, we have a big actor. I mean, Kurt Russell is incomparable. A big actor playing a sublime character. Ego in the comics is an incredible character. Love Ego in the comics. In a sequel to one of the best MCU movies that had come out at that time. And yet it fell flat. And so it set the expectations super duper duper high.
Right. And
then fell flat on it. And that was why he was the worst to me. Because I was thinking about going like with Ronan the Accuser or Murkath the Accuser. I think was the one from Thor: Dark World. All the villains that you just forget about because they don't mean anything. But to me, the real main thing that made him the worst was that it set expectations high and it just fell flat and was a disappointment.
Zach?
Good point. So, I agree. When you have somebody like Kurt Russell, you gotta give him more, right? But after all of the time that we waited for that Black Widow movie to have, because yes, the main antagonist was his name escapes me. I can't remember the dude's name, but the creator of the Black Widows, he was the main villain, but the antagonist was Taskmaster, right? And when you go through the whole movie and it turns out it's just this, it goes to somebody from Black Widow's past, and just to come back to haunt her, right? It takes away from that character itself, right? It takes away from who Taskmaster is supposed to be, because in the comic books, and he's a formidable villain, right? Or she, whoever's they're a formidable villain, and so when you just focus on making it that one-dimensional character that they made it in Black Widow, right? There's no room for growth. Because to me, I like to see, because with Thanos, even though Thanos, like with my villains, I like to see that growth, that there's, okay, I could see this side of things, right?
Right.
And so with Taskmaster, you can't really see that, because it was just, and you can't even build off of it, right? Because the way that it ended, it's Taskmaster is no longer there, right? Because everything's resolved, and so it leaves a lot to be desired for that character, because I know what it could have been.
Awesome. Great points. Do you have any thing to come back with that? How Ty, what is your point of view on Taskmaster? Why is he not the worst MCU villain in your eyes?
So I started this off by defining what a good villain was. A good villain is relatable. Taskmaster in the movies is kind of relatable. We can always, all of us, understand the manipulation that our parents put us under. And, trying to mold yourself into the ideal child for your parent. And so in a way, Taskmaster was kind of relatable. You really kind of saw her point of view in it all. Whereas Ego was just some planet hell-bent on being a universe. And that's not really anything anybody can relate to. It's weird, and it didn't translate well. And he's a person too, but don't ask questions. And he was a human before he understood what life was. But then don't ask any questions, because this is a movie for babies that are stupid, so just watch it and give us money. Then a good villain is also justifiable. Their actions are justified. Taskmaster, they had justified actions. They were brainwashed. They were a Manchurian candidate, a kind of Winter Soldier. So you understood why they were doing the things that they were doing. You could obviously see, well, this person's being manipulated.
Right.
Whereas Ego had no justifications, really, just wanted to do it. And even the way that he did it was a little weird and convoluted, and didn't make any sense at all. But yeah, that's pretty much my time.
Hey, Zach, do you have any last comments about?
So you're right. Ego, it was very, he did it just because he could do it, right? But isn't that what gods are? Like, don't they just do it just because they can do it? And because he has that kind of power and that kind of knowledge, right? Whenever you have somebody like Taskmaster set up in the MCU, you're thinking of somebody that's going to be around, because Ego can still come back, right? There could still be, but Taskmaster, if you take in the multiverse, right, you can bring anybody back.
Yeah, true.
But Taskmaster, at the end of this story, there's no more, because she's no longer that brainwashed. She's no longer that villain the Black Widow, the remaining Black Widows, right? So Taskmaster is no longer that antagonist, and so where do they go from there, right? Because with Ego, you can still build upon him and learn about him, and there's still that story there. With Taskmaster, there's no more story. With the ending, the way that the Black Widow movie ended, right? Of course, they could, again, with the multiverse, bring them back. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's when you can't tell, outside of that movie, when you can't tell a story, where do we go from there?
Great. Hey, let's go over to Josh real quick. I think that was good wrap-ups for both of you guys. Let's run over to Josh. What's going on in the chat? What is your thoughts on these two villains? I doubt you know either of them, but what's your thoughts?
Well, much like everyone else in the chat, nobody knows who these two are. So y'all did a good job at picking some bad ones, because everyone is like, "Who are these?"
Yeah.
Although Jake brought up a good point, and this is kind of someone that I would have picked. He said Ultron. He was a great villain, but it was written terrible. Killed off too soon, and I was like, that's kind of a good point.
Yeah.
But as far as the debate goes, Zach's ending piece about I obviously I haven't seen the movie, but if the whole thing ends and there's just nowhere where to go from it after that, and when he said that part, I was like, okay, I kind of side.
Yeah,
that
he had a lot of. Both of them had great points throughout the entire argument, but the point that sold me on Zach winning this round was that Taskmaster was a big letdown in the sense that I'm assuming he dies. I haven't seen Black Widow, so what happens to Taskmaster, Zach? Does he die?
Joins the Red Room.
Oh, is that what
joins?
So there's no so the thing is that Taskmaster in the comic books and cartoons or whatever, he's an awesome villain that people love. You know, they love Black Widow versus Taskmaster, and the fact that it was such a big letdown and he's probably not coming back, that sucks. Like that I feel like when you said that, I was like, yeah, I agree. So I think Zach, you're getting the point on this.
Doing some research too. Apparently, Ego's planet contains 1 trillion polygons, which at the time was the biggest visual effect in movies ever.
Really?
It was terrible.
Yeah, it was
bad.
It looked awful. It looked like a cartoon.
Oh man!
I was like, is this a live action movie or is this just a 2-dimensional cartoon?
Great job. No. Great job to both of you. Great job, Zach, for the point. Let's move into round 4. And round 4 is?
Round 4. Fight!
Name the best Joker performance. And we're going to start with Zach. Who was your pick?
So my pick was Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill.
God.
Yep. Just because you hear his voice and you're like, that's the Joker, right? From the Batman animated series, you know, even some of the video games, like you hear that voice and you're like, oh, that's the Joker right there. And so that's why I picked it.
Awesome. Ty, who's your pick?
The incomparable Heath Ledger.
Nice.
This is a person who didn't just bring his voice to the performance.
Oh,
love Mark Hamill. Love Mark Hamill. But he brought an entire character. It wasn't something that somebody else animated and who put the body languages in. This man made an entire character that we can all imitate. Everybody has a Joker impression. Like whenever somebody says, hey, what's your favorite Heath Ledger? Or what movie do you think of when you think of Heath Ledger? Or what do you think of when you think of the Joker? It's always Dark Knight. Dark Knight to me.
Right. Awesome. Cool. Zach, what would you, this is going to be tough, I know, buddy. Who would, just argue that point of why Mark Hamill has a better performance for the Joker than Heath Ledger?
I mean, when you talk about, you're right. You know, he brings that whole package as far as, you know, he brought it to the live screen. You can physically see that. With Mark Hamill, he does it with his voice. He brings that attention to it and that iconic laugh and that iconic Batman, that you hear it and you hear that emotion that just with his voice. And so to me, that's why he kind of, it's better than Heath Ledger is because of that fact, and because you physically saw Heath Ledger. You can't see Mark Hamill, but you know that when you hear his voice, him do that voice, that's the Joker, right? And he brings that emotion to something that you can't even see him.
Nice. Ty?
So, I mean, Mark Hamill was, of course, my second choice at the end. You've got a really good. I completely agree with everything you say here.
You want to know Zach's first choice, but you just got to it first.
Yeah, I mean, I do love Mark Hamill. What he's done with his voice acting alone is incredible.
Awesome.
But whenever I was thinking about the question, I thought about the way that it was worded, and it was that who had the best performance. And I couldn't help but go with Heath Ledger at this point. He brought a gravitas to the character that justified the control. And while I do love the way that Batman is voiced as well in the animated series, I love the animated series, there's really no one around to compare Mark Hamill's performance against. He's just the best in the show, and that's pretty much it. No one else is going that hard, doing things that talented. But whenever you go to Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, and you have people like Gary Oldman knocking it out of the park as Commissioner Gordon, and Christian Bale just hitting a home run with Batman, but still you have Heath Ledger's Joker, and all you're thinking through the whole movie with these amazing performances is, when am I going to see the Joker next? When do I see him next? I need to see more of him. That's when you know that you have an absolutely unparalleled performance. But it doesn't go just to the way that he behaved, because he brought so much to the character that wasn't in the script. Not only the tongue, licking at the scars all the time, the cadence of the voice, the lingering eyes, the body movements. His body movements were so good. Like that first scene, whenever they're robbing the bank and he's wearing a mask the whole time, you still can pick him out of the 3 bank robbers and you don't want to stop watching him. The way that he moves is just so entrancing. It just draws you in. But they gave him a lot of freedom in the script, and he really showed how well he understood the character with the creative choices that he made. The number one being the hospital explosion. I think that really sold me on how great Heath Ledger was as a performer when that happened. Because if you remember the hospital explosion, he hits the detonator and the hospital doesn't explode. And so he keeps hitting it and hitting it and hitting it and looking around and hitting it, and then it explodes and he gets scared and runs away.
Right.
That was not scripted. It was supposed to detonate when he hit that timer, but the pyrotechnics had a delay, and they only had one shot to do that in. And he stayed in character, kept with it, and created a scene right then with just his movements that it made the most iconic scene of the film. Not only that, though, the hostage video when he's filming the fake Batman, that was just a few lines of dialogue that Nolan had written. Everything else was Ledger. They even gave him the camera and said, you shoot it how you want to. It was supposed to take place in just an office room, but he made it take place in a meat locker. And he touched the man, and he would react to him like he was like excited for the murder that it was about to take place of him. And it disturbed you just watching it. And then the party break-in, whenever he breaks in and he's looking for Bruce Wayne, I'll settle for his loved ones. He goes around, he's supposed to just walk around the room, but he goes around eating people's food, taking champagne, grabbing it so hard everything flies out, and then drinking from the empty glass.
Right.
I mean, there was, when the Batman thug that was supposed to unmask Batman gets electrocuted off to the side, Joker was just supposed to laugh, but Heath Ledger tackled, ran over there, goes to him, stomps on him, and spits on him. Like he just, every single thing, it wasn't just an action, it was an opportunity to him to outperform. And I mean, it was the greatest performance of his lifetime, if not one of the best of all time. Sorry for taking up so much time.
No, you're good. No time limits. Zach, do you want to defend your guy against that?
I mean, it goes back to, you were right, man. I I mean, that's honestly why he was my first pick. But then you really think about the longevity of how often Mark Hamill was picked. Like not only for the animated series, but for the video games as well. That's an iconic voice, right? And you're just getting that emotion from his voice, and it's not. And you don't have to use those mannerisms that Heath Ledger used to really gain that attention from people. And so when you can do that with your voice and voice alone, and you can keep that attention, and then they keep asking you to come back, there's obviously something there. There's obviously something that people are grabbing their attention to. And so to me, that's why Mark Hamill is one of the best performing Jokers out there, is because he just does it with his voice, right? He doesn't need to be in live action form. He catches you with his voice, and it's so that, I mean, that's really my entire argument. Is just that when you can catch somebody with your voice and voice alone, and make them emotionally invested in it, then you're amazing.
Oof. All right. Do you want to wrap? You guys want to wrap up your arguments, or do you want to wrap up, Ty? Or do you feel like you're good there? What do you guys want to do? Because this is a tough one.
I agree with that performance. That he brought a lot to the character using just his voice, but I think that was really a constraint. I mean, Hamill is a great actor all around, let alone not only an amazing voice actor, but a great all around actor. But the medium that he's in constrains him to only be able to perform in his voice. Yeah, he does a great performance, but it pigeonholes him. It makes him to where, okay, well, we'll put you in the animated. Okay, we'll put you in the show. We'll put you in the video game. But you're never going to play him in real life. You're never going to actually get to be Joker. Whereas Heath Ledger's was a full body experience. You got the voice. The same voice that, the same chill you get with Mark Hamill's voice and the happiness you hear, you get that with Ledger. Especially that first reveal when he takes that mask off and he says, what doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger. That's when you know, damn, he's got that voice too. He has the voice, and he's got the persona, he's got the body language, he's got the disturbing tendencies, the crazy look in the eye. He's got it all. I mean, and it's just it's you're trying to compare like an apple to a cornucopia at that point, and it's a little unfair. But because I do love Mark Hamill and I love his performance, I just think that he's pigeonholed and a little constrained.
But to bring it back, with what he did being pigeonholed, right? Again, to be able to capture your attention the way that he did being pigeonholed is just a testament to what that character brought, right? To what he did with the character, right? Because, I mean, again, I'm sure Heath Ledger could have done the same thing, because Heath Ledger is an amazing actor. 10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah. I love that movie. Knight's Tale. That's one of my favorite movies. Oh yeah. Right. I love that movie.
Don't get me started on Brokeback. That's one of my favorites. Me and Josh both. I love Brokeback Mountain.
Hey, I've never seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen Heath Ledger till you see that one, Zach. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Literally. I'll watch it.
Literally.
But.
Right, sorry.
But. If you can bring that same emotion and capture that attention the same way that somebody does in a live performance, right? Imagine what you can do if he did it in a live performance, right? And so that to me, that makes me, if any in the future, right? If DC plans to ever use Mark Hamill in a live action, I am excited to see that, right? Of course, I would be excited if Heath Ledger could be a part of the DCU, right? That would be a dream come true, right?
Right.
But being that Mark Hamill is iconic with the voice, having him come in, that makes me excited for what the Joker could be, what his Joker could be. We've seen what Heath Ledger's Joker could be. We've never seen what Mark Hamill's Joker could be.
Like in a live action way, yeah.
Yep, in a live action way. And so because he has that voice, and because he has, the acting chops to do something like that, right? he's got it, and
All right, any wrap ups here for you, Ty?
End of the day, Heath Ledger brought an amazing performance to it, physical, vocal, body language, and then the improv, the things that he was able to do and bring out of that character that blew us all away, and then being able then to compare him against his co-actors, Michael Caine, Gary Oldman, Christian Bale, all three incredible actors, and he still blew him out of the water. That gives him a barometer. And there's no barometer for Mark Hamill's performance. And so it's hard to relate. But with Heath Ledger, you can see, oh no, he had three greats next to him and he still beat them. Sorry, but he wins. In my opinion, in my book. I love Mark Hamill.
These fights have been very difficult because of you guys love every... It seems like you guys are very similar in your taste with the picks. Like
you have good taste, Zach. Yeah.
You thought about going with Key and Peele yourself, or you would have if you would have thought about Key and Peele, Zach. You would have probably thought about Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. So it's quite interesting. Let's jump over to Josh real quick and just get your thoughts and the thoughts of the chat.
Man, I have to give Zach some props just right off the bat for your top contender being picked and you still coming out swinging.
I know. Yes.
Props on that one. The chat is a little divided.
Oh, they stanky in there. They stanky.
Yeah. Buck coming in hot saying Jack Nicholson for him, and he said he wouldn't vote for anyone in a Christian Bale movie anyway.
But Buck with all his comments, Buck's comments are ridiculous. Every single one that pops in, I'm like, what is he doing in here? What is Buck? He says, okay, Buck.
We got Carrey saying that for her it was Joaquin Phoenix.
I agree. That would be my pick for the best Joker.
I still haven't seen it, so no spoilers, please.
Okay, at the beginning
we have
of the movie.
Kjo Charger 21 who said that Heath did what no one had done with the Batman villain, and ever since every actor tries to completely transform like he did, but she says for them that he will never be topped.
That is your cousin Katie, Josh.
Oh, okay. What up, Cody?
See, I was gonna go with Joaquin Phoenix. I really was, but there's still more to build off of him to base the Joker, because he was only really the Joker towards the end of that movie, and so I feel like with the sequel that's coming out, that's gonna where people are gonna be able to base. Okay, this Joker is a top. This Joker is where it's at, because in the beginning of that movie, it's just about mental health.
Yeah, it for argument, if for like a debate like this, it's hard to fight Joaquin because you can poke so many holes, as in like he's not really the Joker. It's just hard to debate that. Yeah, I can see why not choosing that was a good idea.
Loved Joaquin.
Yeah, me too. Okay, guys, it's gonna be.
By the way, you both did really good.
This is a tough one for me. I think, Zach, you coming off of having to choose your second guy, and Mark Hamill is, I think personally, Mark Hamill, I like his performance more. I think he emotionally impacted me more with his performance, like in Arkham Knight, which is one of my favorite Batman stories.
Yeah.
Mark Hamill's performance in that is sort of emotional in a weird way, because it is Batman's mind is split in that video game. So it's really tough for me. He is one of my favorite. I think he's like, if I was to rank Jokers, it would be like Ledger would be 3. But in terms of arguing, I think Ty just has a more rounded arc. It's just tough to fight whenever it is a voice actor and a performer, because then he can argue improvisation. Like, we don't know how much. I think Mark does improvise a lot in the studio. I think he is improvising a lot of those things, because from what I've heard, he actually goes in and rewrites a lot of the dialogue. He's like, Joker would not say that or whatever. So he like does craft his character even more. He has been playing Joker since the 90s and has defined the character, I think, for to the television and video games. I think there is no one better. But for argument's sake, I think Ty took the point on that. So congrats, Ty, on winning that round.
I read something that said that he came up with his Joker voice. It was like a mix of the comedian Jerry Lewis and Hannibal Lecter. That's creepy.
Who, Heath Ledger?
No,
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Yeah.
No way.
Nice. Dang,
All right. I
that's not-
want everyone to go around the room and do your best Joker. Just kidding.
Do your best Joker. What?
Impression. I'm just
No shot.
so
Batman? I don't know.
this right now is the end of the game. Ty would be winning with 3-1, but I still want to play this tiebreaker round. Are you guys down?
I'm down. Let's
I'm
do
down.
it.
All right, guys. So I'm going to read the tiebreaker question, even though I think it's just, just to have fun. There's not a tiebreaker here, but I'm going to read this tiebreaker question. At the end of the question is when you can answer your favorite. It's a pick between two. Okay? So you guys ready for the tiebreaker question?
Go.
I'm watching both screens.
Which Jim Carrey comedy is better, Dumb and Dumber or Ace Ventura?
Dumb and Dumber.
Ace Ventura.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, nice.
Ty, you were out of the gate first with your pick, so start your argument right now.
I'm so sorry. Can we specify which which Ace Ventura? Is it Pet Detective or is it When Nature Calls?
That's up to Zach. Whichever.
Oh
he
dang!
wants. Which do you want, Zach?
Because I was like, he didn't say When Nature Calls. I'll pick Dumb and Dumber.
I get-
Dumb and Dumber is so quotable, though. This is a movie that started Jim Carrey's career. And then playing aside, again, another incomparable actor, Jeff Daniels, is incredible. Jim Carrey would say that after performing, after acting like a bunch of ridiculous people on set, Jeff Daniels would then go back to his trailer and write Tony Award-winning plays. And so having such an amazing, because like Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels were one of my picks for comedy duo. I actually considered putting them in as a comedy duo because they work so well off of each other. And I do like Pet Detective. That first one's a little weird. The second one is incredible. And
Yeah,
I
incredible.
think you get that same thing with Dumb and Dumber. The first one's incredible, and the second one's pretty good. It's okay.
It shouldn't exist, really.
Yeah.
It shouldn't exist.
But
Yeah.
everything that Jim Carrey does for the Christopher Lloyd character, or the Lloyd Christmas, I forget his name,
Yeah,
where he
Christmas.
has the chipped tooth. That's Jim Carrey's literal chipped tooth. Like he took that off for the performance. The constant one-liners in there. Big gulp, huh? Oh, see you later.
You're right.
You can't stop referencing
pull
it. And
over.
that came out.
Oh no, it's a
Yeah.
cardigan. Or is that Jeff Daniels says that?
Yeah. I mean, that was a silly movie that really just captured my adolescent joy and just laughing at somebody being absolutely ridiculous.
Nice.
I don't have enough good things to say about Dumb and Dumber. Throw the salt.
All right,
Throw the
Zach.
whole salt shaker.
So, I was not prepared for that question, but the
Right.
reason I picked Ace Ventura, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a while since I've seen either one. It's been a very long time, but I remember being as a kid. My mom is an animal lover. Right? She loves all types of animals. Like she'll go and feed squirrels and stuff like that. So I really related to that character because he literally was all about the animals, and as a kid, that's all I could tell. I love animals, right? And so that movie kind of really resonated with me. And so every time I think of the first Jim Carrey movie that I've seen, that was the very first Jim Carrey movie that I had seen. So that's why I chose Ace Ventura.
Awesome. Ty, what is your defense against Ace Ventura? Why is
So-
Dumb and Dumber better, I guess?
Pet Detective was, not Pet Detective, sorry. When Nature Calls. That probably was my first Jim Carrey movie. When Nature Calls, and it is great. But it's when you think about the first movie that set it all off, Pet Detective, you go back and watch it, there's some good parts, like when he parks like a glove, or the trying to get through the door and they have the secret password and it's New England clam chowder. There's a lot of funny parts, but it's still just Jim Carrey on his own. I mean, he gets Bob Odenkirk directing and writing, but it's still just him carrying the whole story the whole time. Nobody's really in there helping him at all. Nobody's in there really being a barometer for how good he's doing. But in Dumb and Dumber, it's a duo. I mean, you get twice as much of the hilarity, twice as much of the jokes, twice as much of the humor of the one-liners. It's not just him doing the one-liners. Like Pet Detective, you can say a bunch of one-liners, and When Nature Calls, you can say a bunch of the one-liners, but they're all Jim Carrey's lines. Dumb and Dumber, it's Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. You have two different people who you're quoting. You know, it's seeing him play against somebody and feed off of somebody. It rises his performance. Whereas Pet Detective, he was just out there trying, or Ace Ventura in general, he was just trying to do something. He was just playing off of Odenkirk, you know. He didn't really have anyone around to kind of bolster him. As Dumb and Dumber, he had
somebody to rebuttal off of.
And not only somebody, but Jeff Daniels, you know, of all people.
Very true. Very true. I mean, but it speaks to the character of Jim Carrey. I mean, Jim Carrey himself, you know, that he was able to do something like Pet Detective, you know, Ace Ventura, that he could do it on his own and still be funny and still have those one-liners without having, you know, to feed off somebody else. And to me, you know, yeah, Dumb and Dumber, you know, as far as a full movie, right? It's a great movie. But Jim Carrey movie, this one's majorly focused on Jim Carrey. And so he was on his own there. And so he had to carry it on his own and show what he's really made of.
He had to Jim carry it, if you will.
I think since this question is what is the best Jim Carrey movie, I think having Jeff Daniels in the argument makes it a little bit of a struggle. But I think whenever you were saying it speaks to him as a performer that he can go out solo and carry the whole movie, I think that's where I'm really like leaning here. Where our show's running long, that's why I'm trying to get this argument cut short. But anyways, I think if this round was, if we were doing a real tiebreaker, Zach, you would have got the point for me there. But congratulations, Ty. Here's your winner screen right here.
The winner is Ty.
Congratulations, Ty. It was a well battle.
Thank you.
Oh, y'all both came out swinging.
A very difficult one. Yeah, that was.
Except for the second question.
Yeah.
Key and Bill, man. Killing me.
Great job to you guys. That was a really fun fight. I think these
that was fun.
These picks were tough for me to see. You know, you guys' arguments, they were both awesome, and it was hard to pick between them and keep, you know, my personal preference out of it, because I think personally I would have picked Mark Hamill. Wait, did I pick? Who did I go with on that last round?
Joaquin
Cool. Anyways,
I mean, hey. You want to give me the point? Come on.
I don't know. Oh wait, yeah, Ty got the point on that. Where's my hand? Yeah. Ty got the point on that. That's right. But here, I'll put you in 2 for you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
There you go.
I'm not so far behind, but great. Had a good time.
Thanks, guys, for doing that. I'm gonna close out the show real quick, and thanks, Josh, for fact checking. Do you have any tidbits about anything that we missed? Any cool comments that came in about the Jim Carrey fight? Anything like that?
A lot of it was really kind of split. A lot of Dumb and Dumbers, a lot of Ace Venturas, a lot of people saying Jim Carrey's just iconic in general. So
yeah.
Good debate topic to come up with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for watching Let's Settle This. If you guys like what you see, you can subscribe and hit the bell and comment if you're watching it on the replay. And come back every week. We're trying to do these, you know, during the week, maybe Wednesday nights, Tuesday night, whatever day that we can schedule these fights. But yeah, we hope we see you guys in the next one. So see you guys next time. Later.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.